Hello, it's Liz from Marseille Tarot, and today is February 6th. And so, since we're at the beginning of February, I thought I would do a video to talk about my plans for February, in particular, my spiritual practice, my decks, crystals, books, that kind of thing. So, to begin with, I associate, I have color associations for the months. So, for example, last month, January, I think of silver, white, blue. And for February, I think of pink, purple, red. For March, I think of yellow and spring green and purple and so forth. And so the color associations I have for each of the month oftentimes will influence what I put on my altar, like the altar cloth and the crystals and the pictures and so forth. And also influence my deck choices. I do tend to be attracted to certain decks during certain times of the year, seasonally, but also the color palette. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that. And I also, so for, this is not a color palette deck. In the US, where I sadly reside, February is Black History Month. And so in honor of Black History Month, I thought that I would pull out this tarot, Black Tarot, an Ancestral Awakening Tarot by Nyasha Williams and Kimishka Nadu. And I've had this deck for, I don't know, a year and a half or so, and I have not used it a lot, but I really like it. And so let me just read you what Nyasha has to say about this deck. So this is to quote her. My spirituality has developed and evolved through unlearning and learning, decolonizing my mind and spirituality. I have been learning to embrace traditional spiritual practice that were taken from communities of color, tribes, and groups. Many of our long-established spiritual practices have been demonized through colonization, the media, Hollywood, white supremacy, and under the guise of Christianity. We have significant work to do as a world to untrain ourselves, our minds, actions, and habits from the lies and propaganda we have been fed for generations by those who currently hold power at the top. So I believe that to be true for me as well, in terms of unlearning, decolonizing my habits and practices, my speech, my behavior, my spirituality. So I hear that. So anyway, in honor of Black History Month, I thought I would pull this deck out. And interestingly, I pulled a few cards, and as I mentioned, I see purple, pink, and red as the colors for February. And this deck, I love this Hierophant. This deck is not without those colors. So not only does it go along with Black History Month, but it goes along with my color palette of the month. I really like this. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith derivative deck, but it has its own art style. The guidebook is excellent. And I'm happy to be exploring this deck this month. So that is, again, the Black Tarot. And then, to me, what has always been the quintessential February deck for me is the Aquarian Tarot. This is by David Palladini, and it was developed or created in the late 70s under the sponsorship, I guess I should say, of Stuart Kaplan. Stuart, as the story goes, Stuart Kaplan was, I think, I can't remember if it was the New School or Pratt in New York, art school, and saw David Palladini's work and asked David if he would create a tarot deck. And David says he had no idea what a tarot deck looked like or anything, but he came up with this idea and this beautiful artwork. So, of course, the name fits the month because we are in a Aquarius season. But to me, the color palette is just what I think about for February. You can see that there's just so much pink and purple and little pops of red here and there. And there's also a lot of, not on these cards I've pulled, but on a lot of cards, there's a lot of white space. And so for me, that gives sort of a, oh, here we go, a coldness, which where I live, February is one of the coldest months. And these white faces make me feel like chill and cold and freezing weather. And so for me, this deck is very, very February, really one of the most February decks. I always think of this deck for February, and really, therefore, unfortunately, it precludes me from thinking of it other times of the year because I just have it so identified with the month of February. So next up is a deck that I got in April or May of last year. It is called The Inner Awakening. It's by Carol Herzer. Oh, it's one of those shiny ones. And it is very much pink and purple and again with pops of red. It's Rider-Waite-Smith, really a clone, I guess, as you can see. I love it. Unfortunately, Carol changed her cardstock, and the cardstock is now really kind of thick and really difficult to shuffle, where with her old decks, I found it really easy to shuffle. But as most of you know, this is a handmade deck. Carol hand does the images and then paints them. This is not one of the glitter decks, but you can see the skies in particular have these beautiful shades of pink and purple, and again pops of red. So this is a deck that I plan to be using in February because of the color palette. And Carol makes these beautiful bags for all her decks. Oh, look at this beautiful Queen of Swords. So anyway, that is another deck I plan to be using. And again, completely based on color palette. So here's Gay Marseille by Charlie Claire Burgess. I used this deck in December for Kelly Bear's challenge, Tarot Advent, I think was the name of it. And I used this deck every day for the first 25 days of December. And so since then, I really haven't thought about using it. But I do miss it. I love it. It's one of my favorite decks. I'm so glad I finally found a Marseille style deck that I love. And you can see very much Charlie's color palette. Look, we even have a pink horse. Yay, love it. It's very much lots of pinks, purples with pops of red. I just adore this deck. And I love the guidebook. In fact, now that is the guidebook that I use anytime I pull out a Tarot de Marseille. But to be honest, 90% of the time, if I am using a Tarot de Marseille, it is the Gay Marseille. So this is a deck I am looking forward to using in February. And you can see this gorgeous color palette. I mentioned before when I've spoken about this deck that one of the things that put me off from Tarot de Marseille in the past was the traditional color palette, the yellow, red, and green, and blue, the kind of primary color palette, and it didn't speak to me. But Charlie's color palette really speaks to me. So this is also a deck that I will be using for the month of February. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into using Gay Marseille after a month hiatus. And I thought about, so another deck I think of as a kind of with pinks and purples is the Starkeeper Tarot by Nikki Ferrada. Again, lots of pinks and purples in this deck. It is a Rider-Waite-Smith derivative. It's got a beautiful color palette. I love the artwork. Look at this Ace of Wands. Beautiful. Justice. So I love this deck, and I really have to say I do not use it too much. So I'm kind of glad I thought about pulling it out for this month. And I don't want to use too many decks. I kind of, I'll give you a count at the end. Look at this beautiful wheel. Gorgeous. Star. So this is another deck I will be using in February because chosen based on its color palette. Beautiful. Let's see if I pulled this one out because to me I see amethyst, and I definitely think of amethyst as February, which is one of the places where I get the purple from, because amethyst is the birthstone for February, and so I always think about amethyst for February, and therefore purple. So that is Starseeker Tarot. I will also be using Nikki's Oracle deck, which is also called the Starseeker, but Oracle, not Tarot. These are beautiful. The production quality is beautiful on these decks. They are indie decks. Having a little hard time. There we go. So the Starseeker Oracle, I have not used this Oracle too much. I ordered it because I really liked Nikki's tarot, and so I thought I would get the Oracle. I'm not one for pairing decks, especially like matchy-matchy. You know, oh, this creator's Oracle and the same creator's deck. I don't tend to do that. But I do love her art style, and I do love the color palette. It's just gorgeous. So, as I said, I have not oh man. conflict. I like the keywords in this deck too. I mean, it's just beautiful. The guidebook is good too. So I do like to have an oracle to pull out. So yeah, I think I'll end on that one. So that is the Starseeker Oracle, again, also by Nikki Ferrara. Yeah. I'm sorry, Farada. And then this is a new deck I just got. So I did not get any new decks the month of February. The month of January. I don't know. I just didn't. Nothing spoke to me. This deck, the Magical Nature Tarot by Jory. I'm sorry. It's called the SINK Spirit Collective, and Jory, I don't know their last name. But this deck came across my radar a few months ago. And because I'm trying to be more deliberate and intentional about my deck buying, I looked at it and I thought, oh, I really like this. I love the artwork. I also love that the cardstock is paper made out of herbs, I think they said. Jory is in Western Mass and I'm in Southeastern Mass, so Massachusetts local. So I like supporting that. And I just was intrigued by this deck. So anyway, I was thinking about getting it. And I was going to the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem with my friend Ben. And I asked him, I said, do you have the Magical Nature? What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. So he brought it with him. And we went out for lunch and he said, I think you should have this deck. He said, because he loved it. He said, I love it. I think it's absolutely fabulous, everything about it. But he said he just doesn't use it. And he said he thought it would be a deck that I would use. And I said, yeah, I said, I'll just order it. I don't want you to give it to me. I'll buy it. I'll order it. Because he had also told me he wanted to do a video for his channel on underused or underappreciated decks, and this was one of them. So I said, you want to use it for your video, you know. Anyway, we were at lunch, so I said, I don't know. I would use it, but no, you keep it. So he said, well, let's do a tarot reading, and we'll let the cards decide. So we did the tarot reading, and the first card was King of Wands, which I think of as Leo, and Ben's a Leo. And then the Eight of Wands, and then it was pointing towards, and I can't remember the third card, but it was clearly me. So it showed like the Eight of Wands, like, whoop, the deck leaving Ben and going to me. So that is how I ended up with this deck. And I've already been working with it. I really like it a lot. And I will continue to work with it in the month of February. Crystals. So of course, amethyst and rose quartz. So those are crystals that are on my altar, and crystals, rose quartz and amethyst, I think about for the month of February. In terms of books, one of the things I decided the beginning of this Gregorian calendar year was that I'm going to pick 6 books, 6 fiction books and 6 nonfiction books that I already have on my bookshelves to read during the month, during 2025, not in 1 month. So, didn't do it in January, but for February, I'm going to read this book called 9 Days by Judy Lannon. And Judy is a dear, well, I don't see her that much anymore, but a friend of mine. We worked together for many years, and we were born one day apart. In the same, she's March 22nd, I'm March 23rd in the same year. So we have this Aries connection. And anyway, Judy wrote this book, and I bought it. Gosh, when did she write? It was published in 2022, and that's when I bought it, and I haven't read it. So I'm going to read it in February. And then I'm working on a project with a group that I'm in, ancestral research and healing and all kinds of, it's a big long story that I won't get into, but and this is my ancestral altar right there. You can't see it, but that's a photograph of my grandfather's family, his family of origin, with his 5 sisters and 1 brother and his parents, and that's the ancestral line I'm going to be working with. So a lot of people in the group are doing, research, going to sites where you can explore research-wise and so forth, your background. And I reached out to one of my cousins in Scotland about my grandfathers my cousins and my family. My grandfather and her grandmother were siblings. And so I asked her about the family. And I knew a little bit. So one of my relatives from Scotland brought a bunch of photos when they were visiting a while ago. And my grandfather's sister is named Elizabeth, as am I, after her, but also my maternal aunt. And my last name is Westwater, as is my grandfather. So his sisters did not marry. And so her name remained throughout her life, Elizabeth Westwater. And I did not change my name when I got married, and neither of us have middle names. So we are both Elizabeth Westwater. Anyway, so my cousin brought photographs of the family cemetery site, grave sites, whatever, and there was a picture with the name Elizabeth Westwater on it. And I was kind of like, ooh, that's sort of weird to see a gravestone with your own name on it. So that is the ancestor who I am going to be starting my ancestral journey with. What does this have with books, you ask? Well, this is the nonfiction book I'm going to be working with in the month of February and probably throughout the rest of this year. It's Ancestral Tarot by Nancy Hendrickson. I bought this book. I always put the dates that I buy books so I can kind of trace my path of how I go from one book to another, and also in this case how I bought this in April of 2021, and it's February 2025, and I haven't read it yet. So it ties in with my idea of reading a book on my shelf that I haven't read yet, and with the ancestral work I'll be doing. So I've decided, rather than doing physical research, I did get some information that I already had, but also from my cousin in Scotland. And I decided, rather than physical research, I'm going to work with my ancestors a little bit in that way, but in more of a metaphysical way. So this is work that I will be doing in the month of February, but also for the remainder of this year. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 decks. 6 tarot and 1 oracle that I'll be working with in February. And I've already pulled from 2 of them, and these 2. And I'm thinking maybe for the remainder of this week, I'll stick with the Aquarian and Magical Nature Tarot. And then next week, I'll move on to 1 or 2 other decks. And so that's how I'll rotate through the month of February. Then again, I am also one of those people who wakes up in the morning and sits down at my table and says, today I feel like using XYZ deck. So anyway, this is my plan. Whether I will stick with my plan, I don't know. I hope so. I think I will because, like I said, of the color palettes of these decks. These are the colors I'm really, attracted to in the month of February. And so I think I will be attracted to using these decks. Also, I just wanted to say I'm wearing this bracelet that I have had for probably 25 or 30 years. I bought it at a reggae festival. And today would have been Bob Marley's 80th birthday. I think it's so perfect that he was an Aquarian. He was a visionary. He had unique and magical and interesting and profound and progressive ideas. And he was, of course, incredible creative. And he is someone who I actually have out on my altar because I do think of Bob, well, year round, but specifically in February because it is his birthday month. So anyway, one love.